Hey guys, how you guys doing today? This is Darren Jackson, and I am live right now to talk about some sports today on the Darren Jackson Show. Definitely going to get a chance to talk about the Class 5A Division One and Division Two in Texas, and also we're going to get a chance to do some talk on the SEC possibilities of both Texas and Oklahoma joining from the Big 12 to the SEC. So first, I wanted to say thank you all to being on my show, and I hope that you like and subscribe on the Darren Jackson Show. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the talk of SEC. I noticed I said I was going to do Class 5A, Division One, Division Two, but I think that this is something that's very important that we need to talk about, and that is both Texas and Oklahoma joining the Southeastern Conference. From what I'm being told, it's not a guarantee that it has happened yet. However, there are possibilities that it could happen in 2025 once Texas and Oklahoma is out of their contract from the Big 12. So I want to put some insight on the reason why I think that this will be a great move for both Texas and Oklahoma is because the SEC has been a competitive conference than any other conferences in the country. Maybe more competitive than the ACC, the Big 10, Big 12, Pac 12, and some of the Group of Five. So the Power Fives are thinking about moving. Well, it's not the Power Five thinking about moving, but it's Texas and Oklahoma thinking about moving, going to the SEC. What does that do to the Aggies as far as recruiting wise? I think that it's going to be interesting, but at the same time, Texas A&M is not interested in wanting to let Texas and Oklahoma go to the SEC. I don't know if Arkansas would be okay with it because a lot of kids from the Dallas Metroplex area, they have that option on where they want to go. As far as other teams like TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, Oklahoma State, they're going to have a lot of say so in this because they want to keep the Big 12. If the Big 12 disbands, where do those teams go? Like Baylor, where do Baylor go? Where do Kansas go? Where do Kansas State go? I can see Kansas and Kansas State in the Big 10. Iowa State could also be in the Big 10. As far as West Virginia is concerned, I don't know if West Virginia would be an ACC type school or they probably would do independent, just like Notre Dame does. But I don't think that West Virginia is not going to be able to say, hey, we're just going to be independent. I think that West Virginia probably would jump to the ACC because they are more of an ACC than the Big 12. But as far as other schools like TCU and Texas Tech, I think Texas Tech probably will go to the Pac 12 if that is the case. But TCU and Baylor, I don't think that that could be a scenario for them to move to maybe a group of five, like the American, or like I want to say maybe like the Mountain West, because TCU was in the Mountain West, and then they left the Mountain West Conference to go to the Big 12. So I think that Texas and Oklahoma, if they do play in the Southeastern Conference, I think that you would look at them basically being on the west side, on the west SEC West, I should mention, and then you may have Auburn and Alabama moving to the east. So that way they would compete with Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Missouri as well. But I do think that this could be the landscape of college football moving into a whole different direction. The college playoffs, they're still going to keep the like I think I want to say the four college playoff teams until they can be able to maybe move it to eight 18 bracket, or they can move it to maybe the 12 team bracket where you have 4 teams from your conferences to have a bye in the first round. I don't know how this could shape up, but what I can say is that this is something that would be very interesting. I think that a lot of people are going to take a look into this and consider the fact that both Texas and Oklahoma, they have the option to where if they decided to leave before 2025, the buyout of the Big 12 is going to cost them, but I don't think it's going to hurt them. I do think that Texas and Oklahoma could be able to get into that buyout if that is the case, and therefore they decide that, hey, if we go to the SEC, I think that that probably would be more of a 40 to 70 million dollar buyout if that is the case. But only time can tell because, like I said, during the SEC media days, then a lot of people are just going to talk about it, and it's going to be a talk about it for the next couple of years until they decide that they go ahead and make sure that they can get a chance to do the actual realignment for the conference. So hopefully we'll probably get more detailed information on what's going on. So apparently, like I said, it only determines on what's going to happen, and if this happens, the landscape of college football will never be the same. So I really believe that this could be something that we can definitely take a look at in the next couple of years. And I'm very interested in it myself, based on the fact that I really love to see teams go at it for quite some time to know who's going to play who. So, guys, I noticed that if you're on Facebook and if you're also on Twitter, please go live. You can be able to see me on my show. I am looking to be able to talk more about the SEC. If you have any questions or any comments, please do so. Please let me know. Give me your thoughts on Texas and Oklahoma making it to the SEC from the Big 12 based on their buyout. That was my mom that rubbed my head. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and hopefully get a chance to jump the gun to talk about Class 5A previews. Get a chance to talk about some high school football in the Lone Star State, especially in Class 5A. Class 5A Division 1 from Dave Campbell, Texas Football Magazine. They have Ben Ryan as the top ranked team in the state, followed by Manville, who I think Manville is going to be a really good team this year. I'm shocked that College Station is the number 3 ranked team in 5A for Dave Campbell, Texas Football Magazine, over Highland Park. I thought that that probably would have been something that a lot of people would have take the consideration to say that Highland Park would have been over College Station, but maybe Dave Campbell Texas Football Magazine is seeing something different from what I'm seeing. Like I said, Highland Park number 4, Longview is number 5. I think Longview is going to be one of the dark horse teams to watch out. Every year, I think Longview has always proven to a lot of people that they could be a force in the 6A or 5A rankings wherever they'll land. A couple of years ago, Longview won state, like the first time in 81 years. I think that John King and his staff is is loaded. I think that they're going to be a team that a lot of people are going to take a look into. That East Texas powerhouse of Longview, Lufkin, Texas High, Longview Pine Tree. That's that's going to be a tough district to keep our eyes on. And then I'm taking a look at the 1937 Longview Lobos team that won the state championship. That team was pretty loaded. And then you also got to think about the Lobos that won that state championship from a couple of years ago. I want to say, let me see if I can be able to find it. It was, I'm thinking that it was, trying to find out what year that was. I think that was 2018. That was 2018. Longview won the state championship at AT&T Stadium, where it was the 81-year drought, where they finally got over the hump. So I think that the Lobos are going to be a team that a lot of people are going to say, hey, you better keep your eyes on those guys because Longview has the skills to be able to make a run for the state championship. The number six ranked team is Cedar Park. You got Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial, Colleyville Heritage, Frisco Lone Star, Mansfield Summit. And then when you get down to 11 to 25, Katy Paytal is the team that I definitely want to keep my eyes open. Red Oak is another school that's going to be pretty good. Abilene Cooper should be good. Port Arthur Memorial could be the sleeper. Richmond Foster is going to be good this year. Fort Bend Hightower is going to be good as well. I got a chance to go to the Manville game against Fort Bend Hightower at Freedom Field, and Manville dominated that game. I think that Fort Bend Hightower is going to be one of those teams to keep your eyes on. My dark horse teams around the greater Houston area that I want to say to watch out for. And like I said, Lufkin is one of those teams that's in the East Texas area that you want to keep your eyes on. Even though they had a 6-5 season, they're going to bounce back. I don't think that they're going to challenge College Station and Magnolia to win the district, but that could be a slight possibility. Friendswood's another team. I think that it's going to be a pretty good team this year, considering the fact that they had lost their quarterback. They lost a lot on defense, but they have some younger players that is going to step up. Their wide receiver, JT Rower, is probably one of the best receivers in the district. Then you have the junior quarterback, Dupreece. Let's see, I'm thinking his name, if I can be able to get his name right. Matthew Dupreece. He's a junior, 6'1", 185 pounds. I think that Friendswood is going to compete with Port Arthur Memorial in that district, but they got to get by in Beaumont United. United, they're gonna not only rebuild, but they're gonna reload because there was a young sophomore junior laden class. But I really think that the most interesting district in Division One is 10-5A. Those are the heavyweights that you got to take a look at. Those four teams, it can go either way. Manville is, like I said, the number two ranked team in the state. Katy Paytal could be a team you want to watch out. Richmond Foster is a team that could sneak up on anybody, just like Fort Bend Hightower. And then you take a look at the remaining five: Rosenberg Terry, Angleton, Fort Bend Kempner, Milby, and Wisdom. Out of those five, I gotta say Angleton could be the sleeper. They could knock out one of those four guys, one of the big four boys from that district, and can make a run for a playoff spot in Division One. But I think that 10-5A is that district that a lot of people are going to say, who's going to be the heavyweight? Who's going to knock out Den Ryan at the very top when the playoff comes and down the road? Uh, so Division Two, and Division Two looks like this. Alito is the top ranked team in the state. I don't see nobody beating Alito. I don't see nobody topping them. The only two teams that I can think that could possibly top them is Fort Bend Marshall, who is the number two ranked team in the state, and Huntsville, who's number five. Rodney Southern squad. They're coming back from that heartbreaking loss to Crosby in the original semifinals. Huntsville had the lead, and somehow, some way, Crosby came back. It was one of the best high school games I've ever seen in so many years. I've been around a lot of high school football games that have been good. Been around the Calvary Evangel matchup. I've been around the Evangel Kentwood matchup. I've been around the Calvary West Monroe matchups as well. I've been around a lot of good matchups that was one of the best matchups I've ever watched. But last year, going to Woodforest Bank Stadium to see Crosby and Huntsville in that regional semifinals, that really was one of the best games I've ever seen. Division Two, outside of Alito and Fort Bend Marshall, Lucas Lovejoy and Liberty Hills are two schools that can be competitive. Ennis is another school. It's always competitive. Lubbock Cooper, Mansfield Timberview, Leander Rouse, Grapevine. Texas High is another team I think is going to be pretty good to watch. Crosby lost a lot last year, but I still consider Crosby as a dark horse team. South Oak Cliff from the greater Dallas area is going to be pretty good. The big dark horse team that I think is going to be a team that I feel that could be able to make a run for a state championship in Division Two is A&M Consolidated. I think A&M Consolidated could sneak up and knock off Fort Bend Marshall, knock off maybe Texas High, Huntsville, any one of those teams that's going to be very deep. The same thing with Frisco. I think Frisco is another team that a lot of people don't want to sleep on. Denison is another school people don't want to sleep on as well. From 1 to 25 for Division 1 and Division 2, it's going to be like a heavyweight fight. Just like I stated about Class 6A. It's a heavyweight fight where you never know who's going to be on top. And I really like how Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine put the rankings where they have the top 25 teams in Division 1 and Division 2. 6A, they had the top 50 teams. I really think that this Division 2 could go either way. It could either go Alito's way or it could go Fort Bend Marshall's way. Because a couple of years ago, Alito played Fort Bend Marshall in the state championship. Alito really put it on Fort Bend Marshall. And I think that it's going to be different from the last couple of years when Fort Bend Marshall made it to the state championship. Only time can tell if that is the case. Now, as far as district-wise is concerned, from, like I said, from Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, in East Texas, and I'm taking a look at District 8-5A Division 2. Ennis is the favorite to win the district. Greenville could be a team to watch out. Sulphur Springs used to be good, but they haven't been good lately. Corsicana could be a team that I would consider watching out. 9-5A Division Two, Texas High probably be the favorite. Longview Pine Tree could be the team to knock off Texas High. Marshall, I think Marshall is my dark horse team. Jake Grill and those Mavericks, they was young last year, but I think that they are going to be a whole lot better than this year, considering the fact that Marshall has always played a tough team. And this is the Mavericks on the East Texas side. We're not talking about Fort Bend, Marshall, not right now. But that district could be the standing point of who's going to be on top, who's going to be the second place team, and then you got 3 and 4 to fight it off. Nacogdoches, Mount Pleasant, Hallsville, Jacksonville. Nacogdoches to me is the dark horse team because Marshall could fall down and not make the playoffs. Nacogdoches could jump ahead of them, but like I said, only time can tell what could happen. 10-5A, like I said, Huntsville is the favorite. AM Consolidated is number 2, Montgomery and Montgomery Lake Creek. If I'm Huntsville, I don't want to overlook AM Consolidated. I think that AM Consolidated could possibly take the district. Not saying that Coach Southern team won't win the district, but I think that this could be one of the best Huntsville AM Consolidated matchup that we would ever see. Let me see, when are those two teams going to play against each other? Because that could be for the district championship. Let's see, AM Consolidated. Okay, so October 1st, Huntsville has to go to AM Consolidated. I think that that could be for the district, for first place for the district. That could possibly be for the district championship. AM Consolidated is one of those teams I want to say can match well with Huntsville. As far as Huntsville's schedule goes, they have a homecoming game against Willis. They open up the season at home against Worthing, and then Kingwood High at home game. Then they head to Sheldon, C.E. King, before they open up district play, hosting Brian Rudder. Like I said, that AM Consolidated game on the road at 7:30 on October 1st, that could be the game of the year. And we have so many teams in Texas that we can all say it's going to be the game of the year. But to me, I really think that this could be a division that a lot of people are going to try to outshine Alito. I think that this is going to be a division that people are going to say, hey, what can we do to knock off the top dog, which that is Alito. Division 2, 11-5A in that district is Fort Bend Marshall. Unless Galena Park has something to say about that district, as well as Willow Ridge and Sterling, I don't see nobody beating Fort Bend Marshall out of that district. I think that that is going to be the team that a lot of people want to try to dethrone, which they're not going to be dethroned. They have probably one of the best receivers in the state in Chris Marshall. Chris Marshall last year had 44 catches, 1,008 yards, and 18 touchdowns. And he is one of the top receivers in the country. Probably he is one of the top receivers in the state. By far, he's an All-American consistent All-American, I should say. The only district that is probably going to be competitive is District 12-5A Division 2, Crosby, Nederland, Barbers Hills, Texas City, Port Neches Grove. Humble, Kingwood Park, Dayton, and Santa Fe. Crosby should win that district. That should not be a problem with them. If they can be able to find a quarterback that can be able to run the offense, I think that they would be able to do something. So either I'm sorry, Cranen Miles or let's see, K. Udy. Either one of those guys. I think Miles would be the quarterback, but I don't think that Crosby is going to be as good as they were from last year to make a run right back to the state championship. I think that they are a regional semifinalist team so far right now. I'm not saying nothing against Jerry Pareto and his squad. I think that they are going to be a really good team to win that district. As far as the playoff goes, they still got to go through a load because they lost a lot of weapons from last year. Uh, Demetrius Dunn, Reggie Branch, they lost a lot. I think that if anybody can overtop them in that district, it would have to be Nederland. Nederland looks to be one of those teams that a lot of people want to take a look at. Kynan Fusilier, he is returning back. He had 59 receptions for 1,382 yards and 15 touchdowns, and he was the district division. I'm sorry, district 12-5A Division Two MVP. I think that this could be the year for Nederland to make a run for deep in the postseason in Division Two. So when you're talking about anybody else outside of the greater Houston area, Liberty Hills is my team to watch out. Leander Rouse is another team to watch out as well. And that is just about it for Division Two is concerned. So I think that Division Two, I want to say Alito is the top favorite, just like Division One with Denton Ryan. But Longview and Manville in Division One can make a strong case on who can outshine Denton Ryan in Division One. And as far as Division Two, Fort Bend Marshall and Liberty Hill are the two teams that could outshine Alito in that district. So basically, Class 5A is going to be pretty interesting, just like Class 6A. The playoffs in Texas is always good. And anytime that you watch high school football in the great state of Texas, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of heat based from what I'm going to say about Louisiana. Don't get me wrong. I think Louisiana has really good playoff experiences when it comes to power ratings, and seeding. But the best playoffs I've ever watched is Texas because you have so many good teams in Texas that it's hard to pick on who's going to win who every year. It's not always the same teams like you see in Louisiana, like the Edna Cars or the Calvaries or the West Monroes, the Acadianas, the Archbishop Rommel, John Curtis, Evangel, Mansfield. You don't see teams that repeat in Texas unless if you're a really good team like Galena Park North Shore or Austin Westlake, Alito, Den Ryan, Longview, Highland Park. Those are heavyweights, and those heavyweights can match with anybody in the state. If you take a look at Texas and look at 6A and 5A. 6A and 5A to me are right here. It's just like Louisiana. It's right here. Louisiana has 5A, 4A. It's like right here. And I give the edge right here to Louisiana right here. Not to say they go way lower. It's like right here. Texas is right here. And if they had it to where both Texas and Louisiana had playoffs, where John Curtis could play in the playoffs, I don't know if John Curtis can match up in 6A. I think that they can match up well in 5A, but I don't think that they can match up in 6A. And it's nothing. It's not a knock on J.C. Curtis and his squad. There's a lot of teams in 6A that John Curtis probably cannot beat. Some of the mediocre teams, I give it to them. But when I say teams, I mean the Duncanvilles, the South Lake Carrolls, Austin Westlake, Galena Park North Shore, Mustangs, the Katy Tigers, Cy Fair. If they have a Louisiana versus Texas series, I like to see some of these matchups. Edna Carr is another team I think that could match up well with Fort Bend Marshall or Aledo. I want to say Acadiana. I would love to see Acadiana take on Katy, or Galena Park North Shore take on West Monroe. I would like to be able to see some of those matchups if they had a Texas versus Louisiana series. And I'm not saying Battle of the Border has not been good. I have a lot of respect for those people, for the Battle of the Border. But to say that these teams in Louisiana matching up against teams from Texas, some of the teams have been successful from Louisiana to beat a Texas squad, but I don't see, and this is me saying this, and no disrespect towards any schools in Louisiana, I just don't see one of the best schools in Louisiana match well against one of the better schools in Texas. Like Acadiana, I think Acadiana is a really good team, just like Catholic from Baton Rouge. If the Division One state champion teams or the Class 5A state champion teams match up against one of the 6A schools or 5A Division One or Division Two schools, I don't think that Louisiana. Maybe I'm gonna say this: Acadiana probably would beat a team like Den Ryan, maybe. But to say that Acadiana matching well against Austin Westlake or even Katy, I don't know. I don't know if that could be a possibility. And I feel like if that is the case, maybe they should be able to have something. Texas versus Louisiana every year. Maybe if the UIL and the LHSAA can be able to bump heads together, I think that they could be able to see if that's something that they would like to be able to do. I definitely would like to be able to watch that matchup. But guys, notice that, like I said, I'm gonna try to get back on here sometime before the end of this week. I'm gonna do some talk on Class 4A, 3A, 2A, small ball, private schools. I'm gonna try to get it as much as I can. But like I said about the Texas OU talk, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and put my final piece on this. I feel like Texas and Oklahoma deserve to go to the SEC, and I'm not saying that Oklahoma is going to dominate it because everybody knows that Nick Saban is going to stay at Alabama as long as he want to stay. And I think that if Alabama, once Nick Saban retires from Alabama, then I think that one of the teams like Oklahoma or Texas or Florida, Georgia, somebody from the SEC is going to dominate. Maybe LSU can dominate it. Maybe Arkansas can be able to find the right pieces to the puzzle and try to get to that national prominence. But until Nick Saban retires, I don't see nobody challenging Alabama unless, like I said, if it's Georgia, Florida, or maybe LSU. But Nick Saban is probably going to stay there for a long time until he decides when he wants to give up on it. Uh, Only thing I would suggest is I think that it would be a great move for both Texas and Oklahoma to join the Southeastern Conference as far as recruiting wise, because not just only you have Texas and OU in the SEC, but recruiting wise here in the state of Texas, because you're going to have AM right here, Texas right here, and when you're one of the top recruits in the state of Texas, it's a toss up. You don't know where to go. And then you throw OU in the mix, it's like this triangle. Texas is on the left, AM is on the right, and Oklahoma is in the middle. What would happen to TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, Oklahoma State, as far as recruiting wise? That could be the matchup that a lot of people are going to consider by saying, hey, I don't know. I don't think that this could work out. It's a possibility, guys, but that possibility is very slim. So, on a standpoint, I would like to be able to see it in the near future because Texas still had that Longhorn network, which is up until 2031. And the Southeastern Conference network is always good. So I can't see Texas moving to the SEC. Probably the Pac-12, yeah, or the ACC, maybe. But actually, come to think of it, I think I could see Texas moving to the SEC. Now, Oklahoma is probably the team that shouldn't do it because of the fact that OU has dominated the Big 12 for so many years. And I'm not a big OU fan. I'm a Longhorns fan. But like I said, I have a lot of respect for Oklahoma. Some players I don't have respect for based on the fact that when they talked about the throwing the hook 'em horns side upside down, that they're going to get penalized for that. I think that that's a good suggestion, and I think ton other teams in college football, I think that they should definitely keep up the good work on that. So, with that being said, the landscape of college football is going to be different from what I can tell you all. And I'm definitely going to try to get back on this show again, like I said, before the end of this week to talk more on Class 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, uh, the private school teams. So with that, like I said, guys, I'm definitely going to be back on. I'm going to try to be back on Thursday, and then I'm going to try to conclude everything else on Friday. So I want to say to all you guys, if you can, please be able to like, subscribe, and follow that notification on my YouTube, The Darren Jackson Show. Hopefully, I can be able to get more equipment here in the near future to be able to do my podcasting. And I definitely hope that everyone have a blessed Sunday. Thank you all for taking the time to take a look at it. You can go into my Facebook, as well as you can be able to go to my Twitter, Next Star Level 20. So until then, guys, you guys have a safe Sunday. Be blessed. And thank you so much for everything. Peace.